Joel, welcome to the Lyfelinez Podcast, my friend. It's been a few weeks. We've been back and forth talking on Instagram. So this is actually like a first date.
It is, yeah. One of them delayed ones, you know, where you're like really eager to find out what's going to happen.
I was anxious as hell. Like, I've just had to take some of my Hydro G to chill out. Mate, tell everyone who you are, where you're from. In fact, it feels like Cilla Black. Just use the blind date. Yeah, tell everyone what you do, mate.
I'm Joel Dovey. I run the Above and Beyond programme for business owners. I reside over in Nantwich, sort of brought up in the Staffordshire, Cheshire area. Came into health and fitness a bit by accident, really. Went a bit wrong at uni and chose the wrong subject. Came home, ran off to America, did Camp America, came back.
How was the run to America like? Long? Terrible, fucking terrible. Delete that.
Did that. Had a bit of fun over there. But I think that's where the love for coaching and leading started. And it just sort of snowballed from there.
And how long have you been doing it?
Had my own business for like 7 or 8 years now. Been in the fitness industry for about just over 10 years. Been around a bit now.
And look, I don't want to spend too much. So those who don't know or tune into the first time of this, I've been an entrepreneur. I've got a dedicated podcast, Founder Files Uncensored and Uncensored on purpose, if anyone knows me. So don't go over there if you're offended by swearing. But jokes aside, we'll probably dig into more of that, because as well as being a consummate fitness professional, you're obviously a very clearly successful entrepreneur. I know I really like, I don't have kids myself, so if you've got a family, you're still juggling the bit. So if you are interested in this, then we'll put the link up to that, because we've done another podcast on Joel's story or life as into entrepreneurship, as you like, or however you want to explain. But so what did you do at uni then, mate? Is it keeping this in types of fitness? Was this sports science?
So I went to, basically I was at sixth form, and they let me take like a BTEC, which is what you could only do at a college in sports coaching.
Fine.
So that's where like the coaching side, the sports side of stuff, just a bit of an all-rounder, enjoyed sport. And but I also love design. I love making stuff, designing stuff, building stuff, just, anything like that.
Which you can see come through, mate, in the content you create.
Yeah. Got quite a creative sort of like side of my brain that I love sort of exercising. So I found this subject called sports technology, and there's about 40 of us joined this course. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure 7 finished it. Absolute flop, mate. It was an absolute flop. But yeah, it was just like basically science and maths at the highest levels chucked together, and I'm sure this doesn't reflect on Sheffield Hallam University at all, but this one course they got wrong. Should we say that? The furthest we got with designing was bloody designing a belt buckle on CAD, not even in real like on a computer. So and that was like year 2, and after 2 years of it, I was sort of like, this just isn't where I want to be at. So yeah, came away from that.
And then we spoke off camera about someone I think who's a bit of a mogul of the industry with.
Yeah,
Phil Graham.
Yeah. Worked with him for a number of years. Yeah.
I mean, anyone watching this, I think anyone that's come through that school of Phil Graham, forgive me for such a crude example, has got absolute depth. And it wasn't surprising when you said, having not known you that long, but just been watching like some little social media spy on your content and the way you carry yourself and the level of knowledge you have, mate, that comes clear. So yeah. I think it's always interesting in this day and age when there's so many fucking gurus. I feel sick with the word. And people probably selling snake oil with not much depth, have not invested themselves. I think the other thing to call out, and me floating in and out of being an entrepreneur, and this obviously being centered around health and wellness, is just making sure you're learning from people who've invested themselves, and you've spent an awful lot of money, as we discussed off camera, doing that. I think the real exciting thing for me today is what we're going to be digging into is around this whole weight loss, fat loss. I will hold my hands up to the fact that I'm ex-army, I'm quite black and white in the right approach, very polarising, but I've probably underestimated some of the influences we've got in today's society, stress being one that I'd underplayed in terms of this whole weight loss, fat loss goal, but we can't ignore, and this kind of come to me when I was in the hot tub with someone that was a young lady.
Oh, steady.
Yeah, I know, yeah. This was in the gym. I actually was sat there with a girlfriend and a ton of old people at the time. But no, this lady in the gym, she's talking about these jabs. So I just found it fascinating. Instant inside, I'm like, she talked about the negatives of what was going on with it, the fact it's pancreatic cancer we've heard, and hopefully we'll be able to dig in this with Joel shortly. But for me, there's like the lack of protocol around that seems to come with it. Whether they do and they forget, I don't know, and we'll dig into it. But essentially, Joel, this is something quite close to your heart, right?
Yeah, it's so the whole jab subject, I think, when I first saw it come out, I thought, oh yeah, this could be a bit of a game changer. This could be interesting. Because my first thought straight away is this is going to be specifically for people that are at the upper end of when we hear about those stories of firemen getting someone out of the bed through the bedroom window after years of being in terrible way. I thought that it's going to solve that. It's going to be really good for that. We're going to see some huge changes. But then the next thing you hear, it's like everyone can access it. Yep. It's so accessible, and obviously they've from the looks of things, they have tightened things up a little bit more since it first sort of came out, hit the market, etc., which is fantastic, a real positive move. But still, if you've got a bit of money, you like anything, you can get hold of it.
Well, you fall firmly into the whole, assisted, non-assisted world. So those unclear what that is, steroids and not steroids, please. Yep. And we all know how easy it is if you're in this industry to procure that stuff. I guess for those that might be a little bit grey on what we're talking about, mate, walk the viewer, brilliant term, the watcher through what we're talking about here. What are the options we're looking at injections wise? So
there's a small handful at the moment, Mounjaro being one of the biggest. We've also got Ozempic being another. They also go by different names, but I think those two are the leaders.
Mounjaro, I thought we were off for like a safari somewhere. First time I heard that, I was like, fucking hell, where are we going? You stop there? Ozempic, is definitely a clear winner. So
yeah, and it does look to me like the research showing that Ozempic is the leading one out of those two.
From what perspective?
From effectiveness in the stats, from the positive effects over negative effects that they both sort of weigh up to. So, like you just said before, Mounjaro seems to be the bigger one where people are looking at things like pancreatitis. If I can say that right.
Yeah.
Even like gallbladder removal, chronic bowel issues, like these are the things that when issues are ignored and they're just cracking on with it and taking more of it because they've started to see the weight loss coming off and they want more, and people start then getting hooked onto that more and more, and ignoring maybe some of the small side effects initially, that's when it's causing the issues. Yeah.
So let's kind of break this down, I guess. So what these, my knowledge on this is limited and on purpose, otherwise I'd sat here and been talking over you and running away with myself. So this is a quite exciting one for me. So as an injection that prevents weight loss, we're fundamentally looking at something that suppresses appetite. Is that right?
Yeah, it essentially is. Yeah, it is literally suppressing appetite. It targets the hormones that regulate the appetite and the fat storage. So it's just getting straight to that.
Anything then that's going to be playing around with hormones is likely to red flag or watch on that one. I guess for me, being very logic and pragmatic, anything that suppresses your appetite equals no food in. Now, fucking hell, I'm close to people around me with, unfortunately, eating disorders and stuff, and we see the knock-on effects of that with fucking awful skin, terrible hair, nails, can't sleep. There's a whole ramification of immune system suppressed, like fuck, because they're not there. Now, for me, if we layer this down and jump in at any time if I'm off this, that's the difference between micronutrition and macronutrition. So micronutrition I've always talked about with some of the things we do with Lyfelinez on. That's the keep you away from the doctor shit.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Vitamins, minerals, electrolytes.
The digestive system needs all that. Yeah.
So those things in presence are going to support the immune system. Macro stuff for me is recovery, tissue development, weight gain, loss, etc. So protein synthesis, development and protection of muscle tissue. Carbohydrates, predominantly, I don't know if many people know, it's the primary function of the brain. So thinking, doing, we all hear the stories of people bodybuilding and get the brain fog and fucking can't think straight. So I think understanding the two roles macro and micronutrition play to start with, then led me into thinking, well, fucking no wonder you're probably getting ill because you're just not eating anything.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of sort of like, what protocols, is there anything that we're hearing out there that's suggesting with these you should be on, this isn't a plug, but Lyfelinez hydrate, I'm joking, you probably should take that, but an electrolyte blend with a protein source.
Yeah.
That feels in my head like a quite a nice protocol or something that should, when you're doing this to have. Is that being done? What's your thoughts?
So I teamed up with a local clinic, little plug for Nantwich Clinic.
Nantwich Clinic, shout out.
So they offer the jab, and they brought me in to sort of help advise and basically put together a care package for clients that were coming in, asking about it, wanting to know more, and possibly even having it. Now, I would say, having spoke to the GP there, he was sort of saying, 50% of the people that are coming in for it aren't really needing it from his expert eyes. And I, like we just spoke about before, about people getting hold of it when they really don't need it.
Yep.
So that was a big, sort of alert for me, right, okay, if I'm going to work with someone on this, it needs to be right, it needs to be ethical and everything else. So, and that was a huge part of it. So actually, I think there is a massive need. There needs to be some aftercare. There needs to be some education around when someone is taking it, because, like you say, all of a sudden you go from eating loads to eating barely anything. There's just going to be, the body's going to be missing so much.
Exactly.
Nutrients.
And then let's look, and this isn't, well, it is fucking stereotyping, it's a thing, so I always do this on camera, but I'm not going to apologise for it, because unless you're a psychopath or high function narcissist, you definitely are going to behave by things that you are influenced by. So this is true, but primarily this food choices are going to be not optimal for the people that are probably looking to take this in the first place. So probably the very bit they do eat is probably going to be highly carb based, right?
Yeah, it's going to be what they were eating before, just on a lesser scale.
Yeah.
So if they're already, already heavily overweight or carrying too much weight, then we most likely know that they're not going to be eating high protein foods. They're not going to be eating well. They're not going to be eating balanced, nutritious diets or nutritious meals. So it's just going to be a smaller amount of what they were eating if no education is put in there, or if no sort of intervention is put in place. And
then probably some introduction of exercise. So all I can see here is some more of the right inputs, some more of the right outputs with limited input. From a really poor base. That's illness. That's all sorts of chronic fatigue. I just see a whole...
low everything.
Just fuck. Just give it 6 weeks. You're going to probably feel better with how you look, but probably you must feel absolutely shite.
Yeah.
To a degree. Yeah. So what would we... Is there anything you then, so through the work you've done now, or some things on camera, and look, we aren't, neither of us are medically qualified in this sense, is probably worthy setting, but I think the output of this, mate, was to have people leave and away with some probably things to think about and some protocols to follow. So what would you if it was someone close to you, what would that dialogue be? Take away if your missus is doing this, what's some conversation you're having with your missus?
I think first and foremost is look at the lowest possible dose.
Yeah.
Not jumping the gun with it, and making sure that you've got the right person next to you that's giving you credible, ethical advice on it, on how much to be taken. Because I think that's when we see people are slowly jumping up in the amounts that they're taking.
Yeah.
And like we were just saying before, to try and fast track it, to try and do that quicker.
Yeah.
And that's really, really, you've got to be super careful with that point. I think the next one is really monitoring your generally how you're feeling, energy levels, fatigue, because ultimately as well, because people are eating so little, it means they just have no energy to do resistance training.
Yeah. And
then that is going to lead us down sort of the next subject that I wanted to cover around the what I feel is going to be an epidemic of people losing muscle mass throughout their lifetime, and then it causing major issues as they reach their later life. So I think that's the key one there. It's managing your energy levels off the back of not eating enough and knowing when's enough. Because it's just I've heard close to me that there's many stories, people getting hold of it, and it really isn't suitable. And we're talking not just your 50 and 60-year-old person that wants to lose a couple of stone. We're talking about under 20s that are getting hold of this stuff. That parents are thinking it's okay. not really knowing much about it, and it could be scary.
So here's something we do about, and this goes back to this conversation in said hot tub in a public setting. Actually, it was in a gym. I'm Valentine's member for those that want to know.
That hot tub's going to be busy next week, mate.
Going to be busy. We should do a podcast out of there. It was about the fact it just wastes all your muscle. I was like, I'm not I'm not going to say I'm an absolute effing with this before any keyboard warrior gets on. All positive comments are welcome here, because I would like to build this topic out. So
100%.
Please drop in comments for Joel and I to come back to you on. For someone that is even more educated in this field, please shout up. But that whole point, I mean, don't we call that catabolic? When your body starts tucking.
Yeah.
Tissue. I mean, that happens normally. Mm-hmm. So I think you're going to get an accelerated position. But the problem with this is, I can't imagine when you're talking about the demographic you are, they've got much of a base to start with. So it's a lose-lose, I think. And I think that's the piece to, if anyone watching this that's not as informed, is just to understand that process of attacking muscle tissue is called going catabolic, and it happens anyway. It's the first thing you lose, so you just accelerate. And if you've also not got any to start with, you're about to accelerate, like hit zero on that muscle tissue levels fucking fast.
Yeah.
What would, so, I think we're agreed it's the hypertrophy, or probably not S&C, hypertrophy would be the better focus.
Yeah.
With some protein and some vitamins and minerals. I mean, that feels like a minimum protocol to be having should you looking to start getting involved in this stuff. If that was someone next to me, I'd be like, I don't know a great deal, but that feels like it's a logical thing to do.
Yeah, 100%. And something that I've seen working in the fitness industry for 10 years is on the protein topic, like in the Western world, we don't eat enough protein. Uh-huh. And I know people are more aware of it now, and certainly bloody marketing has taken that by the balls and just chucked protein on everything you see. Yeah.
Crisps.
Yeah, the whole lot. So I think people are more aware of it, but it can be a bit of a task to hit a decent protein target each and every day, each and every week. And if your appetite is being suppressed and already on top of that, how on earth are you going to hit it? You can't live off 5 protein shakes a day.
I don't even have any more than room in my stomach. So what would you say, what's the sort of general guidance you give some of your clients on protein intake? And then let's try and break that down into what's an egg, what's a bit of chicken piece, if we can.
Yeah. So I think real key one is, striking it right back. A lot of clients come to me saying that they're not hungry in the mornings, that and they hear that breakfast is the most important meal, and this, that, and the other. There's a lot of key information out there now and research done. Whereas if you're not creating some hunger in the morning, and this is off the back of perhaps not eating for 10 hours. So if you're going to bed at 10 o'clock and you're waking up at 7 and you're not hungry before 9 a.m, there's something not quite right with the body there. Why isn't it getting hungry after that long without food? Like, what's going on there with the digestive system? So I think the key one there, starting with the first meal of the day, getting some healthy fats and proteins in breakfast, in your meal first thing of the day is really important. Puts you in a good stead for the rest of the day, because then you're less likely to play catch up with trying to get protein in.
Yeah.
And generally on a basic level, as I'm sure fully well aware that, protein costs us in calories to break down and digest. So it's another way of it's filling.
Yeah.
So it's looking at that whole like satiety and suppressing appetite and that whole thing. Well, protein actually does a little bit of that for you, because once you've eaten a decent amount, you're not hungry.
Yeah, exactly.
That
and a pint of water.
Yeah.
Those two and you're fine.
Yeah. And these are bare basics, but these are things that we're skipping and grabbing the injection.
That's an interesting one. I don't want to digress too much, but this whole fasted piece, because you've got a lot of conversation. Again, I don't study the data too hard about the whole. Who's the one scientist I want to say, but he's the NMN guy. Has one meal a day.
Pseudoscience, is it?
Yeah, we'll put it up. Gaz, you know what I'm on about. Who's NMN man? Just got quite a round head. Joe Rogan's talking to him. He talks about his one meal a day at 6 o'clock. We'll find out. Tom. 6
p.m. or 6 a.m?
6 p.m. It's 1 meal a day.
Okay.
But and then there's the whole piece around breakfast was created. But I guess there's so many more, because then the other day I talked about, like, if you've not got any appetite in the morning, it could be an indicator of elevated cortisol levels, which is
100%
stress hormone,
which is then linking into the digestive system. It's playing havoc with that.
This is where I just go, fuck it, it's all really too complicated, I'm not sure what to do. But no, and this is where I pivot again from going, look, fasted stuff was good, and if we again, I try and use my history and what I know, or what for me is, I've always been in shape. A good friend of mine, Rick from Strom, around the corner, is kind of like someone I've known since he started his business, and anyone who was in the industry knows he's an absolute fucking genius. He started doing blood work around there from the spirit of, for people who were assisted, because rather than ignore it, and you know, it's kind of what he's built his business on, health marks, that stuff, and he just happened to say, well, just get in there. When you had it done, I was like, fucking need my blood's done, I'm fine. I'm not on gear at the time, and my cholesterol was awful, like so fucking bad, like nearly, I think I was like 3.9 or something. And it was like, what? And I looked amazing, but I was stressed with work. I was traveling on 60 flights a year, boozing, trying to train. And it was, for me, that's this turning point when you start to understand, like, this whole weight loss piece is far more complex.
Yeah.
And when you bring it back, and we a couple of times touched on this stress. I mean, you've only got to turn the radio on, stop listening to LBC now in the morning, unless I do my little moans. But you start to understand a healthy weight loss program can't really happen in a dehydrated state or to any sort of success, and with high cortisol.
Yeah,
so
100%.
You can see why the need for this stuff's big. How does it work? Do we know how much? I might be testing your knowledge a little bit too much on what do these injections, do we know they function, or?
Like I sort of said before, I think as far as like my expertise goes, and sort of what research I've done, and bits and pieces I've looked at with like the likes of Unnatural Clinic and the general practitioner there, is that they do just literally target the hormones that regulate appetite. You know, it's a bit like taking your car in and adjusting the settings on it, you know, so it will take on a bit more fuel. It's like doing the opposite, so taking on less fuel.
2-stage map.
Yeah, but it's like a minus 2-stage map. So it's like it's trying to make your body more efficient at taking on less fuel, but without tweaking all the other bits as well.
And do we know, was there any, in that conversation with the GP, is there much data on this stuff?
It's so new, that's the problem. Yeah, it's so new. I think the initial injections were found out by, they were treating some patients which were diabetic, and they were having some positive results, and one of the big positive results was the appetite suppressant and the weight loss, and they clocked onto that and sort of developed it further from there. So that's how it grew.
Well, is such good news. So we did have to pull this out before, but those who don't know,
impressive. This, I like this.
Thank you, mate. I've worked long and hard on this. So Joel and I were talking about this. I didn't really know that this drug had come from the diabetic space, but I have a real passion since I turned 40, which is quite odd, because I can be quite a selfish individual, to do things that are either helping people or the world. So I own a toilet paper brand for one of these things. It's like plastic free and stuff. But this is a partnership we now got in place. I think this is probably a really apt time to talk about this. So this is something we designed. This should be in every workplace. It's a first aid kit basically for diabetes. Comes with some 3 60ml glucose shots, some numbers around this, and this probably supports why these jabs are so bad. There's 1 in 12 in the workplace will have a hypo. Do you know what a hypo is? Roughly speaking, but I never did. Okay, I had no idea when I heard this. So a hypoglycemic episode is when someone that requires insulin, or that their body doesn't manage insulin, so they're on it. So they can look, and this is the worrying thing, they can look a bit pissed. How many people could come into work and just look a bit hangover? And if they don't get support, they just fall asleep and they literally die. Like, first time I heard this, it's like, bollocks. Like, what? That's rubbish. It's a thing. 1 in 12 of the working population is likely to have one. 1 in 3 lorry drivers over 55 are diabetic. You've got 13.9 million people in the country diabetic. 700 people a day get diagnosed. 190 amputations. 500 heart attacks. I mean, it's a epidemic that no one's really talking about. So we put this together with a DSO. If you own a business, this also falls under the same article in the health and safety regulations as the first aid kit. So it's about offering provision and precaution should an emergency incident arrive. But then you've got unlimited training for anyone who works in your business just through the QR code. It's 30 quid. But this substantiates what I'm talking about when you think, well, what we now know is where these injections have come from. The problem's that big, but it's so multifaceted as well. If you think the food pyramid's the wrong way up, that's no one's even like trying to sue anyone that caused that. So what is this something? So is weight loss then something that's, because this is a topic we spoke before you come, we wanted to cover. It was close to your heart. Is this featuring a lot of what you're doing with your clients? Where does the interest for this come from?
Yeah, so I think that the biggest thing that clients approach me with is, right, Joel, I want to lose 2 stone. Right, Joel, I want to drop some body fat. Because at the end of the day, carrying 2, 3, 4 stone too much has such an impact physically, mentally, across the board. And a lot of the clients that I work with, they're quite proud. They're quite, they run their own businesses. A lot of them have got their own families, and getting to that point where maybe they're in their 40s, they're in their 50s, they've been for a checkup at the doctor's, and the doctor's gone, hang on a minute, mate, just isn't looking good.
Yeah.
And then they go and look at their parents and seeing sort of the impacts of, what could be not looking after themselves in the right ways. And it sort of hits home a little bit. Yeah. Then they look, the other way and go, crap, okay, I don't want my children
to do
following suit. So, I think that's the big drivers, and that's where I think the fat loss, the weight loss comes into account, because, it's the first thing, it's the easiest thing, the first thing that we can look at, tweak, change, adjust, and help a client with. And then, going on to the muscle tissue and then progressing their fitness and health in that way too.
So what's your biggest success, do you think, since, what's that one client, obviously we need to name that sticks out, that you think, God, do you know what I mean, with a real passion for what you do in this weight space? I
think not bragging too much, but there's probably a couple, 2 slightly different ways.
Yep.
So one initially, a few years back, before I sort of specialised in working with business owners, was, funny enough, a lorry driver. You mentioned one before.
Yeah.
Been in the logistics industry for a good few years. Absolutely, you won't mind me saying this, absolutely tanked on the weight. Came to me like, I need to sort this out. Yeah. He actually approached me when I was training in the gym and came up to me, and fair play to him, he literally, I was mid-workout and he just came over and said, oh, mate, do you train people? Do you do this sort of thing? And I was like, yeah, let's have a chat. So I grabbed his number. We had a chat, got cracking from there. Literally 2.5 years later, he was like wanting to do his own personal training certificate, like get into it himself. And in the end, he actually did stay in logistics, but sort of taking a bit of a better role in that world that was a little bit more aligned with what he wanted to carry on and doing and achieving. But still does drive lorries, but he's gone a little bit more down the side of actually, I guess you could say, combining what he learned with me. He now helps teach lorry drivers become lorry drivers. So
fine.
A little bit more
for so long.
Yeah, a little bit more fulfilling as well for him. Bit of a progression in his career. So that was Tom, and he lost. He might tell me off if I get this wrong, but it was just shy of 90 pounds. Yeah, it was a big old weight.
90?
Yeah.
It's a 2.2
just shy of.
How many? What's that?
Oh, yeah,
I can't even do the
maths, but yeah.
Guys, what are we saying?
You're asking me to do maths.
Yeah, he's got ChatGPT, guys. We definitely ain't asking him to do maths.
What's 90?
Fucking terrible.
What's just shy of 90 pounds, 80 something pounds.
Give him a computer to rebuild or AI shit, and he's amazing. Ask him maths, nah. Or numbers.
But yeah, I would say in terms of like vastness, biggest transformation in terms of what.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow,
yeah.
Tom.
But done well. Like, I'm not just talking about, we lost this in like a couple of months, and
that's a healthy weight loss, right? A couple of years.
Over a couple of years, done it really well, built up really strong. Built up a really strong baseline of fitness,
and he's also probably ingrained some, like, because people think to look like this, it's like a bit of luck, but it's so drilled into me, it becomes habit, right?
Yeah.
Like,
and it's just the same the other way. You almost said it then. Like, so many habits had been drilled into him of his lifestyle, his job, his friendship circle, all of those types of things, which have huge impacts. Your environment that you're around every single day. He was a big pool player, loved playing in pool championships, pool competitions.
So booze,
booze, food, the whole lot, and working long hours. In his truck, like literally would lead him to like literally wanting. As soon as he got home, it was like, right, what can I eat? Right, I'll order a takeaway. I'll eat this, I'll eat that, etc., etc.
I've driven a lorry, man. Fucking, I couldn't stay awake. Things drive themselves. I was like, driven off. And then you said you had 2.
So then another chap, Matt, actually saw him this morning. Actually, Saw him this morning, saw him this week as well, and actually trained with him this week, which was a good laugh. We literally will just stick together and train together every now and then. And he, in a different way, not so much in terms of such a massive weight loss, but the transformation in his mindset that then reconfigured his physique and massively changed the whole dynamic of his life. He went from basically sold out his company just after uni, created a company in his pajamas with a couple of mates, set it all up, absolutely flying, sold out, got taxed to the fucking high heavens when he sold it, and then cracked on with his life and started up a couple of new businesses off the back of that. Does really well now, and in fact, he works with one of your other directors. Yeah. And his transformation was more, I think, that the mindset shift, the responsibility shift, the change that he took in terms of, like you were just saying before, now fitness and health is ingrained into him. People that didn't know him 6 years ago, would not batter an eyelid that he was never ever overweight, that he was never ever in a bad place, because he's just so consistent with it now and sustains it so well. Gone on to do marathons, gone on to do half marathons, all sorts of crazy stuff. But all off the back of basically seeing himself in a harness on a holiday when he was going on some crazy zip line or something. Off the back of that, saw a picture of himself and was like, geez, I need to do something. So that's how it started, and it just escalated from there, and he absolutely smashes it.
It's good. So the weight loss topic then, if someone's out there thinking about doing it, what should they be doing then? I think to wind this down and just to finish on a real high of like something tangible. I think, would you agree then? I've talked about this, like if it was me, and I'm gonna offer some perspective or something to know that it's not just me saying eat. It's like I've grown in size and shrunk in size through forcing food in. A typical one is 8 stone when I was in the army. I could fucking run 10k in something ridiculous like 32 minutes something. And I always said, I can't get big. I just wasn't eating enough.
Yeah.
So you start to force it in. So I'm coming from a lens or perspective of I understand what it's like to force feed yourself. But I guess this whole protocol around gets, if you're on them, hydrate. So that couple of litres of water you need to be drinking. Get some electrolytes in there with some vitamins and minerals. Packed like as many as you can. And then this protein piece. I'm just thinking beef jerky.
Love a bit. I had some beef jerky yesterday.
It's about 4 million quid for 4 squares, isn't it, in a bag now? But it is amazing.
Good. Yeah, it's good.
If you think, like, what would you chuck in there? I mean, I found an Arla yogurt out of Lidl the other day, 50 grams. It's like eating the inside of a bloody Magnum. Well, nice. So I think with those, would you agree then protocols feel like a good thing? I mean,
obviously, like the less processed, the better.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you've got to look at the convenience and how natural can you physically possibly eat with your current sort of lifestyle and how it is. Then you go into the complexity. Okay, well, if your lifestyle's that bad and you can only eat processed foods, then perhaps something needs to change a little bit. Yeah. And I'm not saying completely change your whole world and chuck your job in and go and hug trees or do something crazy like that.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people now working from home. There's a lot of people like literally less than a few feet away from a kitchen or something where they can have some food chilled and it's fresh and stuff. And there's so many options out there now with prep companies that are doing really decent quality foods. A little plug for Prep D, because they're my local one in Nantwich, and they're absolutely killing it. 1,000 meals a week now that they're smashing out.
Dave's told us all about them.
Yeah, oh mate,
Prep D, send us some food, man.
Yeah, mate, so good.
Heard loads of good things.
So good, mate, so good. To the point now, I just order it for clients. I just sit there each week just ordering shed loads of it for clients. But yeah, so sorry, going back to that. But I think initially it is low intensity movement.
Yep.
Is a super important one.
Why are we saying low intensity? I've got my clearly up, but just to break it down for people.
So for most of us, if we're starting from 0, we've got to keep it just level 5,
Otherwise
6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Otherwise, you're going to go throw yourself into a class at like the gyms we go to, Bannatynes, do a HIIT class, crack it out for a couple of weeks, and then all of a sudden someone's going to go twang, ping, wallop.
Or just be too tired, you're not recovering well
fatigue,
enough.
Everything else. Yeah. And then that's, going back to the foods. Also, higher intensity training can shift hormones around, which then creates bigger cravings, especially for women. So like,
HIIT, guys, if you don't know, if you hear it, just ignore it. Don't even ask.
Not quite. There's a place for it. There's an absolute place for it.
At this level, I just feel
when you're just starting out,
or you're on an injection where you've got nothing in you.
Yeah, that is.
Stay away.
Yeah, I think so.
You're already having your hormones regulated. Like a job. Like, you not want to get bashed by one of them.
Yeah. So low intensity movement, resistance training is the key one. And like, I didn't want to go down a rabbit hole too much with that, but like, I really think there's going to be such a huge problem with like we talk about, like catabolicness, however you say
lack of muscle.
Yeah, lack of muscle.
So here's a couple of things I've noticed. So they talk about Brecker talks about it. Who was it the other day? There's a couple of people, right? Strength in 2 places in your body that can affect if you affect these 2 places positively, you can see a difference in a reduction by 40% of all-cause mortality. So what do we mean? So in the aging population, having a stronger grip strength and a stronger quad gives you a 40% improvement in essentially dying earlier of stuff or things related. So take, for example, unfortunately, my auntie's just taken another fall. She's in that bracket. Smoked her entire life, drinked, loved the woman to bits, but the first one, she did ribs, couldn't get up. Spent God knows how long on the floor, and you think actually when you play it through, it's not if you're strong enough to lift yourself up, you're out of trouble. You're probably still hurt, but you're not laying on the bloody floor, not being able to move for hours. And we all know what happens with bed sores, and the body stops moving, and when you're old and all this stuff. So I do believe, and I'm kind of pushing this for personal reasons, because people I know now, as we get older, everyone around us,
we're seeing it more and more. Yeah.
So all strength, and this does come back to this piece. I mean, I spoke with women in sport. Trying to do some work with those guys, and there's a 40% increase in osteoporosis in females 40 and under, and I think this goes back to this lack of any hypertrophy, any sport really, because it's not being played hard enough. I guess all the things we'd have done. We talked about the weekend with Mother's Day. When we were younger, probably had a fucking milk crate with a ramp against it with a BMX, jumping your mates, breaking your arm and your leg. And now, when do you see a kid in a brace or anything? You just don't, right? So I digress, but I think this whole muscle wastage piece is big and it's important.
Yeah, it's massive. It's absolutely like adults. Little fact: like adults lose 3 to 8% of muscle mass per decade, starting at the age of 30. It doesn't sound like a lot, but year on year from 30.
So 30 years of doing that, you're only 60.
Yeah.
And I say that only because I hate this notion that we're old, right? Because we're not. 42, I still feel like I'm 18. I can still sprint. Well, they reckon only 1% of the population over 30 sprint.
Yeah, it's insane.
What? But then you think
there was a fact after the age of like 16 or 12 or something as well that was pretty alarming. Like those similar figures.
Squatting's one. How many? You must see it as a coach. How many people can get? You see a kid sitting on the haunches, mobility from heaven. Do you know what I mean? They're fully flexible.
Oh mate, my 3-year-old.
Yeah,
she does the most perfect squat and deadlift. Not even actually told her what to do.
Yeah,
she just watched me do one and did it.
Yeah, exactly. And then think how hard is it to hold on, right?
Yeah,
especially when you think like I purposely got it with slouching at desks. And it's really odd to be talking about this at this age because maybe people are like, bollocks. Don't need to worry about that.
Yeah.
I do. I mean, Gaz just had it. He had a shoulder tear. How long that had pissed you off for?
Oh, mate, months.
Months and months. You're only 43.
It's one of the, other than stress, like we were talking about earlier, it's the next biggest thing for my clients, seeing them like fall off the wagon, in the past with the training programs that they've done in the past because of an injury, shoulders, knees, hips.
And is this all tendon based and little muscle tears? And
it's usually something they've done, ignored it, cracked on with it, and then rip, tear, wallop. Then they've had to go either on the verge of surgery or they've just sort of let it heal, and it's a bit funny, and it's never worked the same.
And then you're fighting against the grain, just trying to, with all the immobility we would have created and the lack of range of motion, and they want to probably get back into training hard. Just need to wait here first.
But continually doing like little bits and pieces of the right thing, like the impact is huge. Yeah. It's massive. Like with mobility and stuff like that. But again, like, it's that balance. Like you don't with strength. It's no use being super tight and super strong. You've got to be mobile with that, and there's got to be a nice blend, a nice even blend. And sometimes people do forget that.
100%. I think the strongmen, mate. Quite lucky. I signed the Stoltman brothers with my last role at Monster, and you start to look at that, and the Eddie Halls of the world. You see his documentary, and they're recovering harder than they train. You're like, well, what does that mean? And you start to unpick what it means. You're like, okay. I mean, it takes a certain mindset, I think, in the absence of what we've got now with social media to really get that. So I champion that stuff.
I think one of the best guys that I've seen with the balance of strength and ability is an ex-Olympic lifter. Good mates with James Smith. Used to be hanging around with him loads.
Right.
Flipping off. What his name?
The sprinter?
No. Ex-Olympic lifter. It's literally left my brain now.
Not Durham?
No.
I didn't think he was much.
No.
He's just like psychic and he's fun as hell.
Not Durham, no. Johnny, Tony, no. It's got Sonny.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Have you seen it? So, yeah, Sonny. So ex-Olympic, got banned, I think, or got kicked out or something. I can't remember. I don't know the exact story. But I did a workshop with him, and flipping hell, insane strength and mobility. Yeah. Insane.
But you think when you're holistically moving the body, when everything's evolved, you get a multiplier, right?
Yeah.
I think you see people like
he moves like my 3-year-old can move and lifts like, super heavy.
Then you think of when you're using the whole body together, it's fucking beautiful. I love it. So mate, let's come on specifically. You're in good shape. What's the week look like for you? What sort of stuff do you mix up?
Yeah, I try and keep it diverse. I try and jump in with client stuff that they're doing. I try and keep it as real as possible. Like, my workouts aren't an hour and a half long 4, 5, 6 times a week. My workouts are as and when they're needed, as long as needed. I look at my week, I look at my stress, I look at what's going on with family, and I adjust it accordingly. And yeah, obviously I'm lucky that, I'm in the fitness space. So, I'm primarily around the gyms a bit more than perhaps most.
Is it lucky? Because it can be a bit of a nose, right?
Yeah, like anything, right? Everyone wants something they don't do or don't have. So, I'm in a fortunate place in that. But at the same time, still got to run a business, still got a 3-year-old, still got a wife, still got all the other family stuff that goes on, older brother, younger sister, mum, dad, all those things that they like to throw at you. The family dramas and everything else. So yeah, like my week, literally I will do a bare minimum 3 sessions a week working on strength.
What do they look like?
So I move it across sort of like compound moves with some smaller, isolating stuff. And then usually I figure out, different phases. But I had an amazing coach last couple of years, a guy called Dan Reeve. If you haven't looked him up or know him, like, flipping hell. Yeah, he's just give you like a brief overview, just because he is just so
go for it.
And I know I sound like I'm just licking his arse here, but like he coached me and trained me like physically, programming wise for a couple of years, and so he's gone from all the way from like doing a Deca Ironman, which is already insane.
Yeah, nuts.
Deca Ironman.
Yeah.
Crazy. All the way through to coming, I think it was 2nd and 3rd in Britain's Strongest Man.
What?
Yeah.
That's literally from what
he's done like the width and breadth of fitness. When someone says they're a hybrid athlete, this guy's done it.
Smashed it.
So yeah, what I learned from him was just absolutely insane off the back of him programming me and chatting to him sort of most weeks.
Talk about, mate, the programming piece is the secret. Having if you're really looking for some movement of the dial, I think, and it's being detailed.
Yeah.
And actually having a plan. Like, I just coast the way I have for years.
Yeah, and that's exactly where I was at before I started having some programming from Dan. learnt lots. I knew lots. Like I'd done hundreds of different courses with movement specialists. With some top like doctors in their field. Like some incredible people. Like as well as like ex-Olympians like Sonny and things like that. But the one thing I learned, I think, with Dan's help was like you say, that refinement. That refinement personally was amazing. And like the amount that I learned in like those few years from him was awesome. And being able to actually relate it to life stuff as well. So like being able to run and walk better, being able to just live better through some weird movements, some strange ones that I'd been in the fitness industry for like 5, 6, 7 years, never heard of some of these exercises that he was giving me, and I was like a bit bewildered. Shit, do I need to know more here? Like what am I doing wrong here? And my intellect was pretty good. Like I said, I've done loads of courses and stuff, but some of these movements that he was giving me, and they really made sense. They really they were really sort of
if you look like
opened my world up
publicly. I say that in a sense before the explosion of social media, I guess. But where was the knowledge really on a lot of this stuff? A lot of it was mainstream through like Muscle Flex magazine or it was literally magazine.
It was like
linear
bodybuilders showing what they were doing,
a bit of athletes. You never really had the ability to have the insight we do today. So I think over that, when you have started mass an ability to assess mass amounts of data or people and things, it's then evolves on its own. But I think it's the good thing about it, isn't it? We've just had TRX in doing their podcast. I think that's a suspension trainer. Is it 30 to 20 years now old, and it's still smashing it. Still absolutely smashing it. I think they're doing a lot with in the elderly space in care homes, looking to do. So I think it was great.
Back in the day, I worked with like a 85-year-old, and all we used was a TRX rope.
There you go.
It was mega. A step, a TRX rope, and we had a resistance band.
And for me, I mean,
so good.
You could literally
grip strength from the TRX,
start doing
pulling himself up from the TRX, like all the classic things that we were like, right, what does he need to get better at 85? Pulling himself up, stepping up, adjusting, going up and down things on a step, like done.
Crazy.
We just made it a bit more fun and adjusted it.
Like my mum's 60. I just started taking her and had her on the cable crossovers pulling stuff, and she's like pushing things away from her just with cables and doing a seated squat, and she's like, what? I was like, because these are the important ones. Just think what this looks like. This is you getting out of the chair, this is you getting out of the car, this is you falling over in the bloody bath and pulling yourself up. But all of a sudden she's sat in the middle of the weights area, literally 68, and she's just doing some chest press. So I go,
I love it.
Just don't see her. Everyone else on the walk, we go and walk outside. Do you know what I mean?
Love it.
So before we wrap this up, I know I said that one before.
Sorry,
What are your final points, mate, on the whole Ozempic, Kilimanjaro,
Ozempic, Manjaro? Should I go for the weight loss thing? I think take some credible advice, ethical advice, speak to a GP. Don't just go and throw yourself in and find some online or take unreasonable action, and really question, like, have I really done everything I can before I'm going on to this? Because there could be some nasty side effects. There could be some implications later on down the line that really isn't worth the gamble.
The risk, because we don't know. And I guess if there's anyone out there that's a doctor that's more scientifically qualified, give us a shout. I've mentioned to Joel, I really like the way he works. Hopefully you'll see a bit more of him around the Lyfelinez brand and stuff over the coming months. But mate, absolute pleasure having you on. Really good for you to make the effort, and I hope everyone's got a bit from that.
Pleasure. No worries.
Cheers, bud.
Thanks, mate.